Also, another video on the Inside Spurs channel, and welcome to a bit of a different one, bit of a Fabio Paratici'S deep dive. We're talking about the Dan, all that Sopranos chat that you want to give. We're going to be looking at Fabio Paratici'S and more so his time running of Juventus, not so much Spurs. I want to look more so at Juventus because I think a lot of people obviously know so much more about him as Spurs fans through his time really being in charge of Spurs. I want to be looking more so at Juventus and really the start of their downfall when he sort of took over. So we were looking at some of the sort of bigger money moves, some of the weird money moves. Obviously, he did himself get punished for something or other. We don't know exactly what. I'm not going to guess at what, but he got himself punished really for his time in and around running of Juventus. So we're going to jump in and look at some of the things happening at Juventus through his time. So really for Fabio, he took over from Marotta in November of 2018. So what I've done is I've looked from January 2019 all the way through till May of 2021. So I'll give him the benefit of doubt for any deals that he did do in 2019 of January, but really from the summer of 2019 onwards, that's when I've looked at him. And to be honest, and in January of 2019, he really didn't do anything. He brought back Martin Caceres. I think the deal was around about 600,000. He didn't really do much. When I look at 2018 and the summer, that was the summer of Cristiano Ronaldo joining Juventus from Real Madrid. They brought in João Cancelo from Valencia. They also signed back Leonardo Bonucci after he left on a free and he came back for 35 million euros. They also signed Douglas Costa as well. They were the main signings. There was a few other like Emre Can on a free, but they were the main ones. So looking at 2019 onwards, I'm also going to factor in some of their sort of net spends and things like that. And for Juve, for that season, was a minus 149 million. Now, obviously, again, when you sign Cristiano Ronaldo for 100 million, that's going to play a massive part in the net spend of transfers. So I'm not going to shoot Fabio for that. That's not all on him. I know he worked Marotta for a very long time before taking over from him. I'm still not going to place all of that minus at his feet. The next year, though, of 2019-20, was a net spend of minus 28 million. And in that time, they went about signing Luca Pellegrini with Spinazzola going back the other way to Roma. They brought in Rabiot, Aaron Ramsey, which was a weird one. They brought back Gianluigi Buffon, all on frees. And this was the time, by the way, that Juventus loved a free signing. They could not get enough of a free transfer. They also brought in Marie Demiral, Christian Romero, current Spurs centre-back. Matthias de Ligt was their big signing of 75 million euros. And they also signed Danilo from Man City for 37 million euros. They also sold João Cancelo back the other way for 65 million euros. They also sold Moise Kean for 27.5 million euros. So Spinazzola went the other way. They also sold Orsolini for about 15 million euros to Bologna. So again, some interesting moves in and around there. That was only really 2019. We look at 2020 in the January transfer window that coincides as well with the year that we looked at 2019, they signed Dejan Kulusevski for 35 million euros and loaned him out pretty much the same day. Bought from Atalanta, loaned him to Parma. That, though, is really the big moves that they did through that time. They loaned Emre Can to Dortmund, and that was really it, to be honest. There wasn't really much going on else in their transfers. But signing of Aaron Ramsey is an all-time stain on Fabio's record, in my opinion. Signing the Arsenal player, I think there was talks about him earning about 400,000 euros a week because he was a free transfer, big signing on fees. I think he scored 3 goals in his first season, and then every season going forward, he might as well have not been there, to be honest, and then ended up finishing up his last year on loan, the half season at least, at Rangers, and obviously now is caretaker manager at Cardiff, or is the manager. I'm not too sure what the situation is. I'm not really that bothered. So yeah, not great on the face of things. I mean, signing Dejan Kulusevski, big money for 35 million euros. Juve really made no money on them in the end when it came to selling him to Tottenham, to be honest, which is quite alarming if I'll be real with you. But the The signing of Delict, I don't think it worked. Danilo, I think, got better towards the end of his time with Juventus. I think he struggled at first. Demiral, I looked at Marie Demiral. He played for Juventus 32 times across all competitions. That's it. And he was supposed to be the guy to come in and replace the old guard of centre backs. So yeah, that was another bad signing in a way. They signed him for 21. He was 21 when they signed him from Sassuolo. And look, he was basically gone from to Atalanta in 2021. So not great. Delict, they didn't make any loss on Delict. He ended up moving to Bayern for 80 million euros. So not bad on the face things. They probably made a loss overall with signing on fees and things like that. Obviously, Buffon coming back was probably just Prasci wanting to bring back the guy who is Mr. Juventus. Rabiot was probably the one that you could say was decent. There was talks that he had, the sort of locker room issues, but he did have some success at Juventus. He was there really for a long time. Only recently, last summer, moving to Marseille. So I think he probably was one that you could say had some success. Like I said, Danilo, I think probably was better probably a few seasons in. I think he struggled at first. Kulusevski, like I said, he ended up scoring just 5 goals and 55 appearances for Juventus. Obviously, then moving to Spurs, and obviously he had an 18-month loan spell at Spurs. They probably made a few million euros out of him, if that, to be honest. Nothing much. The bad one, though, when I come to next summer, this is a really bad summer. In 2020 of that summer, this is, signing Artur from Barcelona for 72 million euros with Pjanic going the other way for 60 million euros. 72 million euros for Artur, who played 63 games for Juventus. So you paid more than €1 million per game that he played for them, which is just horrific business. That is an almighty rubbish move. They signed, I think Chiesa signed for them. Obviously, he made his deal permanent after Prati had gone. But, Morata on loan, McKennie on loan, Rolando Mandragora from Udinese, who they signed. He played 1 game for them the whole time in his 2 stints at Juventus and now is elsewhere having a good time. I think it's with Fiorentina, where they made a loss on him again. There's a lot of bad moves, if I'm honest. Romero goes off in that summer. He's worth quite a bit now. Costa goes on loan to Bayern Munich. I mean, there's so many. Luca Pellegrini goes on to Genoa. And, so many bad moves were made. And they really made no money back this window, really. Because, Kulusevski costing as much as he did. In just the summer window alone, with loans and sales, they loaned out about 15 players overall. So it was busy in terms of outgoings, but they got no real value for their outgoings, and that's kind of another issue. And then his last transfer window was obviously in the January of 2021. They made 3 signings: Nicola Ravella from Genoa, Marley Aki, no idea who that is, from Marseille, and Abdoulaye Darbo on loan from Nantes. In the same breath, Mandragora goes out on loan. They sign him in January. He goes out on loan to Torino in the February. Nicola Ravella is bought and loaned straight back to Genoa. He's not there anymore. Sami Khedira was still at the bloody club, and there's just so many bad moves all across the board. They never got any value from the sales that they made. And again, in 2021, they had a net spend of minus 51 million euros. And what did they have to show for it? Nothing. And I thought, well, maybe they had some success. Maybe they won trophies. Well, let's talk first and foremost about the Serie A, because this is the meat and drink, isn't it? This is the meat and potato story of what you are as a football club. So in 2018-19, so obviously he took over partway through that season. They did win the Serie A by 11 points to Napoli. In 2019-20, they won it by only a single point to Inter Milan. In 2020-2021, they actually finished fourth, so they dropped right off that season from the pace they needed to be. And they've never recovered since. 21-22, finished fourth. 22-23, they finished seventh. 23-24, they finished third. And 24-25, they finished fourth. So, and they've never been close to rivaling for the Serie A, which is awful for a club that size to have had that much domination for that long. When they first came into, really when he took over, they had such a firm grip. They were Bayern Munich of the Italian league. They had a firm grip over that whole league, and now they're just one of the teams fighting for Champions League football, and that's it. And it's such a shame to see. In the the Coppa Italia, they won it once in his time in charge, and that was in this final season. They finished fourth and they win the Coppa Italia, which for a team like Juventus, for having such a firm grip hold over the Serie A, that's poor. Yeah, that's poor. So the club started their decline really when Fabio sort of started to take over, and they've never recovered since, and he is blamed for a lot of it. I always thought that we got him from Juventus. No, he wasn't getting his contract renewed. They were letting him go, and we signed him basically for free. And I think he's had some good things done at Spurs. I think he's had a lot of bad things done, and I think we over-romanticize the good things and we kind of ignore the bad things. And I think that's something we need to be wary of when we talk about this coming summer with Fabio maybe coming back in and resuming his power. I believe his power needs to be controlled. I think his power needs to be watched, because I think as much as that he has done good, he's done a lot of bad, and Johan Lang has had to clear up a lot of his bad when it comes to a hoarding of footballers that he could never move on, which is a recurring theme all the way through his time at Juventus, through all the way time at Spurs. And I think it's something to be wary of. I think it's something to be worried of at times. So I'm interested what you guys think about his time at Juventus and what you think about it and what you think of now of Juventus. Again, I know it's a Tottenham Hotspur fan page, but this is a lot about Juventus, and I'd love to know what you guys think about it, because I think it's definitely something to be wary of. I think it's something to be worried of, actually. And he may be coming back to power in Spurs, but I think the more it's gone by and the more research that I've done, the more I'm actually now a little bit worried that he might be coming back. Let me know down below. Thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you all next time. Peace.